Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 4 of What If Naruto was the descendant of Vergil. If you guys enjoyed this what if, and want to see part 5 of it, comment down below and let me know. The like goal for this video is 100 likes. So like this video to let me know that you're interested in this series and you want the next part. And go ahead, and check out other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Vergil was walking throughout Konoha for some time completely bored, as he had tried to find his friends, but had been unable to successfully see them, and decided to head to a place he hated with a passion. The pre-verbal itch in the back of his mind he had held off from scratching since his ascension to being a half-devil, that his demonic blood had been screaming at him to do. Destroy the old orphanage. It still stood there like a scab that wouldn't die, as it was still used even now for taking in children without parents, and had been his hell for a good 6 years of his life. Vergil could only ball his fists, as he hated the memories of the past that echoed within his mind, and in his heart at being beaten by that damn witch every other day. How the kids would get what should have been his food for doing it themselves, and when he was actually given food, well, let's just say hunger was a very powerful spice, along with the need to survive. It's time this place died with my old life, thought Vergil, as his sword came to his right hand, and walked towards the old building. Well, I never thought you would be back here, demon, said the old hag that ran the orphanage, and was being supported by an old king. Why? Because your so-called lessons that you taught me about being worthless were supposed to stick. I may be a demon now, but back then I was just a simple innocent human boy you thought you could torment because of what was sealed inside of me, and it was because of people like you that I've decided to come back here to teach you along with your staff a lesson of my own, said Vergil. As he walked up the steps, well, the old woman sneered, and spit on the ground in front of him. Innocent human boy. Ha! You were a demon the moment the fox was sealed up inside of you and everyone knew it. Now after all these years you come back to kill me, huh? Just like a mindless demon would in seeking vengeance against its betters, said the old woman, as she glared at him with her cold beady eyes, and held her ground against him. What should I do? Take the wins you've given me during my childhood and walk on like they were nothing? No. I'm going to have the last word, and you can't stop me from doing it because like you said, I'm a demon, said Vergil, as he drew Yamato, and glared at the old bat with such intensity that she backed up a few steps because of it. If you kill me and my staff, you will be punished for it by the councils, said the old woman, as she was hoping that threat would stay his hand, and tug on the invisible leash that was supposedly to be around his neck, due to the old Sandaime being hassled by the two councils. Really? Well, since you clearly haven't heard, the two councils cannot do anything to me because I am the last of the Namikaze clan, and can get away with things. Just like one Uchiha Sasuke, only unlike him I intend to actually restore my clan, and teach all its inhabitants a few lessons of my own, said Vergil, as he saw the woman about to speak again, and he was getting sick of hearing her speak. Like there's anyone willing to have your children, you filthy demon, said the old woman, as she found her left arm severed off, and onto the ground, while Vergil didn't even bat an eye at her loss. You are an annoying bitter old woman, who has to die to make me feel better, and to remove painful memories of this place from my mind, said Vergil, as he thrust his sword into the old woman's gut, looked her right in the eyes before twisting the blade, and sliced her diagonally in half. What's going on? Said a member of the orphanage staff, as he came out, and saw the dead old woman that ran the place, and then at Vergil looking at him with cold eyes that made a chill run up his spine. Simple. Everyone that worked here that made my life miserable is going to die, said Vergil before the orphanage staff member lost his head and knew no more. Hokage Tower. 15 minutes later. Tsunade sighed at the mountain of paperwork in front of her, as she couldn't understand how her old sensei got through this without wanting to kill himself, and only now had learned he was able to do it recently with shadow clones. So here she was, drinking sake, watching her clones going to work on the paperwork, and glaring at her for not giving them sake too. I can't believe you didn't think of this yourself. You're the professor after all, said Tsunade, as she saw the Sandaime glare at her, and took a sip of his sake in his cup. Keep it up, Tsunade, and I'll make my final acts as the Hokage of Konoha to ban you from ever gambling again, said the Sandaime, since he didn't officially end his term as the Hokage tomorrow afternoon. Sandaime-sama. Tsunade-sama, said a chunin running into the room with a look on his face that just spelled trouble. What is it now? Did Jiraiya get caught peeping again? Said Tsunade, as she had been told by her sensei that many women in Konoha were a lot like her in terms of hurting perverted men, and since Jiraiya was here in Konoha doing his research, well, it was only logical to assume he ran into someone that didn't like it. Hopefully it was Anko. No. It's the old orphanage on the other side of the village. The one that held Namikaze Vergil for 6 years before they kicked him out. There's been a slaughter of the people there and it's burning to the ground, said the chunin, as he saw Tsunade narrow her eyes, and leave with the Sandaime to investigate this. With Vergil, the half-devil stood there watching the place burn to the ground. The children inside of it were allowed to live, and run randomly into the village like he had done when he was kicked out. The people that ran the place were all dead, just like the old hag herself that was in charge of running the place, and enjoyed seeing the place burn like it was covered in the flames of hell. It wasn't long until the Anbu came surrounding him in a circle formation before the old soon-to-be retired again Sandaime and new Hokage that was Senju Tsunade arrived. It's strange. When I was attacked as a child, it took Anbu to get to me in 45 minutes when I was near the Hokage Tower, but when it comes to me dishing out punishment that's even farther away from that place, you get here like the Shinigami himself is on your ass. Why is that? Said Vergil, as he ignored the Anbu surrounding him, and just stared at the burning building in front of him. Vergil, I, said the Sandaime, but look, the half-devil gave him told him not to speak, and keep his mouth shut. You know what the people at the orphanage told me before I ended their lives? They each told me that both the councils and the Hokage approved of my abuse I suffered here, along with those I got every other day. That you had to prevent me from developing a backbone early on like my father did that made him such a powerhouse and dominant force in the shinobi world. That by being submissive, would ensure that I didn't think twice about raising a hand against the village, and you would then play the caring, loving grandfather. Was it all a lie, Sarutobi? To ensure my loyalty to the village until the time came to give me what I wanted after my undying loyalty to the village was cemented into my very soul. Said Vergil, as he had been very ruthless to that one fool that told him everything in the belief he would be shown mercy, and be spared his wrath. The man should have realized that the devil doesn't show mercy, and neither does he. You let that happen? You never told me that, said Tsunade, as she was about to punch her sensei all the way to Iwa, but stopped when the Anbu began to pull weapons out, and got ready to attack. It was the only way to ensure Vergil would be loyal to Konoha that could be agreed upon by the two councils, while keeping the next generation from learning about the Kyuubi being sealed inside of him. With Jiraiya and you both gone, I had no one to take care of the boy full-time to make sure he grew up loyal without hurting him. By the time he was Hokage, Vergil would have had the support of the Leaf's next generation, and the clan heads from his childhood to make Konoha prosper, said the Sandaime. As he could only impose his law, to ensure the younger generation would help give the half-devil more incentive to stay loyal to the Leaf, and let go of his hate for the older. Loyalty? Loyalty? What about my father and his loyalty? His trust in you and the others to do what was right? To do what was fair? I do not have any loyalty to the Leaf, but only a rare few that still stand for what is fair. Everyone else is just target practice, said Vergil, as he turned to look at the two cage-level shinobi, and saw them tense at seeing his eyes. Vergil, I'm sorry I did this to you, and tried to enforce a loyalty that should never have been shoved down your throat. I was wrong. Said the Sandaime, meaning it, as he never wanted to do it, just as he never wanted to have Itachi kill nearly his entire clan, and let the man become a missing nin. People normally are when it comes to me. Which is why so many people have to die so they can see just how wrong they truly are, said Vergil, as he saw the Anbu around him tense, and Tsunade saw it just like he did. Do not attack, said Tsunade, but the Anbu apparently didn't want to listen to her, and did the exact opposite. I'm sorry the beginning as Hokage of Konoha has to start off so bloody, Tsunade, but I am tired of dealing with these scum, and need to show the Leaf Village that they are not the invincible beings they make themselves out to be, said Vergil. As time seemed to slow down in front of him before he began cutting through Anbu, and slicing them to pieces. When it was over, none of the Anbu were alive, and all Tsunade could do was look at the destruction the half-devil caused. Sheathing his sword, Vergil looked at the old cage looking back at him with guilt-covered eyes, and walked over to the old Sarutobi clan member, whispering something into his ear, before leaving the stunned man behind to fall on his knees. I own you now, Sarutobi. You are not my surrogate grandfather anymore. You are now considered private property of the devil. Hokage Tower. 3 weeks later. You wanted to see me, said Vergil, as he had walked into the Hokage's office to see Tsunade sitting at her desk deep in thought from the looks of it, and knew whatever it was she wanted to say was big. First, I want to say that because of what happened 3 weeks ago, my old sensei has been admitted into the hospital, and is in critical condition from what seems like a weak heart finally breaking. Second, the kids told everyone what you did, and the two councils want your head for it. However, because of your past, and the fact that our clients don't want you to be punished for what arrogant bigots did, that's not going to happen. Since that's the case, along with the Fire Daimyo, believing that you should have justice for what happened, you are getting off the hook, and get a one-time pass on this, said Tsunade, as she could only do this for him once, and no other time. I assume this counts for the Uchiha too, said Vergil, as he was not about to be held down, while the spoiled Uchiha got away with things time and time again that should have gotten him executed. Yes. Though the councils were against it, but that's not new, and I had to put my foot down literally to ensure they understood the Uchiha brat is not getting off easy anymore, said Tsunade, as she saw Vergil nod, and could live with that. I was also told you have a mission for me, said Vergil, as he saw Tsunade nod, and hand him a scroll containing a particularly high-rank mission. Yes? The councils felt that because of your powers far exceeding your rank, they want you to take solo missions that would keep you out of Konoha, to let this incident cool down further, and gave you this rather delicate assignment that after reading I approved of, said Tsunade. As she had protested this because this mission was an Anbu status mission, but the councils felt because Vergil killed a good deal of qualified Anbu, that he should help pick up the slack, and do the mission himself. Fools. They want me on this mission so I can die, and they can claim my clan's power for themselves. But then again, that's only if I were to die, and even then, if I didn't leave it to anyone I considered worthy of it outside of family, said Vergil. As he left the room to set out on the mission in front of him, and sneered at the very words that were written on it before tearing it up. Mission assignment. Go to Lightning Country, infiltrate Kumo, and abduct the vessel of the Nipi for information regarding what she knows. If the vessel resists, the use of deadly force is authorized, and killing her is allowed. Failure to do either is not tolerated. Konoha streets. 2 hours later. Vergil walked through the streets ignoring the frightened looks of the people and that of its shinobi that saw him walking through the streets. People had come to learn that it was him alone that destroyed the orphanage and the entire staff out of vengeance for all the past abuse it gave him. When questioned by it from his friends, Vergil had told them the details of his life in the orphanage, and asked them if they could take what did without going demon on the people there. Neji understood from his time serving the main family, and the cage bird seal being used on his side of the family, for the smallest error made when serving the main family. The seal on the branch family only hurt for a few seconds, so it wasn't as bad as what Vergil went through growing up being beaten physically by those around him. Hinata felt the same way as Neji with her pure gentle heart, forgiving him for killing the people at the orphanage, and told him with all the inner strength she could muster, that he wasn't wrong before she fainted from being so close to him. Tenten had felt a little disturbed by his actions, but that was understandable since she had her family, who she trusted to make sure nothing happened to her growing up, and help her become strong. However, she understood that if something did happen to her, she had it on good authority to kick a great deal of ass when possible. The others let him know that they felt the same way with the exception of Sakura, who had called him a monster, and ran off saying she didn't want to be near him. Quite frankly, Vergil didn't care what Sakura thought of him, and just ignored her. Vergil-chan, said Unko having come out of nowhere and tackled the half-devil with a smothering hug with his face in her well-sized breasts. Hello Unko. Still causing people misery I take it, said Vergil, as he was able to speak after she removed his face from her valley, and saw her smirking at him. Of course. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't, said Unko, as she saw him push his hair back after it got messed up from her hug, and had to fight back her own blush at seeing that hot face of his that made her want to jump him in a dark alley. Good point, said Vergil smirking at her and saw the blush now on Unko's face, along with the spike of arousal the woman seemed to be generating, if what he smelled was correct. So, I hear you killed those fluffers from the orphanage along with some Anbu that tried to attack you, and made quite a mess for the new Hokage, said Unko, as she saw him nod, and she smiled further at his admittance to it. I removed that scab from my childhood, so I could finally be free of those past memories of my pain. Do you disagree? Said Vergil seeing Unko scowl at him before punching him in the shoulder. Fluff no. You gave those assholes what they deserved, and you got away with it too, said Unko, as she put her hands on her hips, and slightly parted her trench coat giving the half-devil a good view of her body, that many other males would have been crippled from the waist down, if they saw what he did. Well, since you are here, how would like to help me with my mission, and get a cut of the mission pay? Said Vergil, as felt an extra pair of eyes wouldn't hurt on this mission, and Unko seemed like a woman he could trust. Well, trust in completing the mission with him. Really? What kind of mission are we talking about here? B rank? A rank? Said Unko intrigued by the offer, as she knew that either of those could wet her whistle in terms of letting her bloodlust out, and this kid was giving her an offer she couldn't refuse at first glance. S rank actually. Follow me and I'll fill you in on the way to Lightning Country, said Vergil, as he saw her jaw drop, and grab him by his trench coat, before giving him a big kiss right on his lips with tongue. Count me in. And if you behave yourself Vergil-kun, I will give you an extra special treat, and then some to show my appreciation, said Unko, as she saw a grin at her with predatory eyes like she did him, and gasped when she felt one of his hands grab her ass, before giving it a good squeeze. Thank you for the invitation to such delights Unko-chan. I look forward to taking you up on your offer, and your special treat with great delight, said Vergil. As he gave Unko's rear another squeeze before somehow breaking out of her grip on him, while feeling some of the Kyuubi's own mischief beginning to influence him more, and the half-devil had to admit, he really was beginning to like it. S rank? Holy shit. If this is as good as I think it is, I'll jump him after the mission, and give him a bunch of kids in the process. Wait, why am I thinking like that? I don't want to have kids. Do I? No. Of course not. Well, maybe in the near future thought Unko, as she ran after Vergil, and licked her lips wondering how much of man this half-devil boy was becoming. Kumo, 9 days later. Wow. This place is actually kind of nice, said Anko, as she was in disguise in a henge with a fake ID card, indicating she was a traveler, and Vergil had done the same, though he had henged his hair to be red, while giving himself a tattoo of a skull on his cheek. Considering it's an opposing village, then yes it is, said Vergil, as he walked through it, while ignoring the looks of several girls looking at him with cherry-red faces, and the scent of their arousal filling his nose. So do you think the Nibi vessel is here in the village now? Said Anko, as she didn't see anyone that matched the description of said woman, and there was no demonic chakra being felt by either leaf shinobi. Yes. From what Jiraiya told me of the Raikage, he likes to keep her on a short leash, and close to Kumo at all times. It's his way of telling her that she belongs to him, and there will be hell to pay, should she try to leave, said Vergil, as he saw Anko snarl at that, and Vergil could understand why since they didn't like being told what to do like property or slaves for that matter. Wait, what's that I'm hearing? Said Anko, as it sounded like shouts, and a large crowd seemed to be forming around a certain area of Konoha. The bitter sounds of hatred, said Vergil, as they leaped to the rooftops with Anko now following, and removed the hinges around them before crouching down on the roof of a building right above the mob. "Bit the demon bitch," yelled one person, who threw an empty bottle at her, and barely missed the slightly injured blonde-haired woman wearing a Jonin outfit that Kumo shinobi wore. "Let her know that she is beneath us," yelled another person, as he threw a brick at the Nibi vessel, and was destroyed by the said woman's fist. "I think we found the Nibi vessel, but how are we going to get her out of this without raising a stink, and back to Konoha without the entire village's shinobi force attacking?" Said Anko, as she looked to where Vergil was, but found he wasn't there, and was in fact now on the ground walking through the crowd towards the blonde woman now beginning to draw on the Nibi's power. "Get away from me, or else I'll turn you into ash," said Yujito, as she hissed at him, and was about to send a good portion of Nibi's fire at him, when he stopped just a few feet of her, before turning around with his sword, drawn that made Nibi become frightened on a level Yujito didn't think was possible. "Do you seek sanctuary?" said Vergil, as he saw the crowd back up, while Anko stuck to the shadows to prepare for their escape out of Kumo, and the half-devil had an idea of what she was going to do. "What?" said Yujito, as she saw Kumo shinobi coming in this direction, and she had no doubt that they were going to pin this on her. "I can give you sanctuary if you come with me. I can take away the pain of being hated for the demon inside of you," said Vergil, as the civilians dispersed when the shinobi arrived, and had their weapons drawn. "You throw down your weapon and step away from the demon bitch," said a Kumo Anbu captain with a katana sword in hand. "If I take you up on your offer, how do I know you won't try to make me your weapon like the Raikage has in the past, and do your dirty work?" said Yujito, as she wondered how this boy was going to free her, and why the Nibi seemed to be shaking either with fear or excitement. "Because I was once like you, but I broke free, and I can grant you that freedom, if you wish it," said Vergil, as he saw the group of Kumo shinobi around him getting angry at being ignored. "Hey, did you hear me? Drop your weapon and step away from the Raikage's demon vessel," said the Anbu captain, and was about to attack when he saw the cold eyes of Vergil staring back him. "Trust him, kitten." I sense no lies in his words. I sense Kyuubi's aura around him, but it's different than usual, and there is something else. "Something I have not sensed in a very long time," said Nibi, as she did feel Kyuubi inside of Vergil, due to the Shinigami's connection to the boy, and knew only the Shinigami had the power to seal away Kyuubi, and even then into a newborn infant. "I'll come with you, but how do we get out of here?" said Yujito, as she had come to trust the cat demon more over the years, and knew that her survival and getting out of this bigot-filled hellhole required trusting the people Nibi said to trust. "Through my teammate in this mission." "Anko," said Vergil, as he saw the Anbu charge at him finally, while a giant snake came out of nowhere, causing his along with the other Kumo shinobi to look at the summons before the half-devil struck, cutting through them before they even had a chance to attack. Turning around, Vergil grabbed Yujito, who was surprised he could even do that, and leaped onto the giant snake summons that Anko was now commanding to head out of Kumo, while telling it to do a lot of damage along the way. The snake summons didn't mind, as it enjoyed smashing through the places when following orders, and since word got out of Orochimaru's death, that meant that Anko was the only one that could summon them. Something that Vergil made clear to Manda before entering Kumo. Flashback 2 days ago. "What? Orochimaru is dead," said Manda, as Anko had summoned him, and he had a look on him that told the two below him that he was angry. Then again, Manda was always angry, so that was nothing new. "He is? I killed him," said Vergil, as he saw Manda narrow his eyes at him, and hissed at the half-devil. "Then why did you summon me here? Surely not to let this sweet thing next to you inform me that she is to become my new summoner. The fact she can even summon my kin with me being the exception is something I don't tolerate easily. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't just eat the two of you now," said Manda, as he was going to, if he wasn't given a good reason, and saw Vergil narrow his eyes at the snake, before grabbing onto Manda's nose with his devil arm. "Because if you don't do what Unko-chan says, I'm going to have to get violent, Manda, and the last time I got violent I killed a lot of people," said Vergil, as he squeezed Snake Summon's nose hard. and kicked the giant snake with his boot hard under the jaw that sent Manda's upper body back. Did he look like a giant sea before he came down hard? Whoa, thought Unko, as she had never seen anyone do that to Manda, and it was clear that the now angry boss summons for snakes felt the same way. You arrogant human filth. I am going to enjoy devouring you whole, said Manda, as he lashed out at Vergil, who drew Yamato from his sheath, moved away from Manda's mouth, and slashed diagonally down on the snake's face, that left a deep scar along the eye, that had it been any closer would have made the boss summons lose the organ. Care to try again? Because to be honest, you are more valuable alive, and I would rather not deal with one of your children that could take your place after I kill you, said Vergil, as he aimed his blade under Manda's jaw when driven forward, would pierce flesh, and strike the boss summon's brain. What do you want from me? Said Manda, as he felt the sharp point of the sword, and could see this boy was not playing around. Simple. Unko is your new master summoner. When she summons you, there will be no sacrifices, no demands for sacrifices, and if you do, said Vergil, as he let the threat hang there, so Manda got the point, and felt his own sword's point needed to be used to enforce the threat. Very well. I agree to the terms. Just don't get weak or I will kill you both if I see it, said Manda, as he went poof out of their sight, and left them alone for a good few seconds before Unko tackled Vergil to give him a big heated kisses, while saying thank you after each kiss. Then flashback. Vergil's thoughts on the moment broke, as he looked down at the blonde woman he was holding at the waist, and sensed she was trying to keep her blush down at such close contact with him, since it was rare feeling to be held in such a way. Behind them, Kumo shinobi were hot in their pursuit of them, as the Raikage had appeared on the scene not long after they tried to get away, and told every shinobi in Kumo to go after them to bring back Yujiro. These guys are still pursuing us, Vergil-kun. Even with my pet trying to get us to the Fire Country border, they can still try to stop us, and if I were them it would have to be pretty soon, said Anko, as she knew that her summons could be hurt with a well-aimed jutsu, and would throw them off violently, allowing the enemy to get the drop on them. Leave them to me then. Get Yujiro to the Fire Country border. Once there, you can get her close to Konoha before waiting for me to catch up, and have her see the old hag, said Vergil, as he let go of Yujiro slowly, but the woman held on to him, and didn't want to lose him since this was her only chance to fully escape Kumo. You will come back, right? I only left Kumo because of what you promised me, said Yujiro, as she felt so embarrassed right now groveling before this boy a few years her junior, and wished she could do something to prove she wasn't this weak sniveling girl. I promise you, Yujiro-chan, that I will return, said Vergil, as he saw her blush before he leaped off the giant snake summons, and drew his sword for battle. Damn. He already has the 2 slave girls back home, a Hyuga, a Yamanaka, and if the rumors are true, an Izuka heiress after him. Does he need any more? Wait. Why do I even care? Damn body wanting to jump him after all that kissing, thought Anko, as she had to restrain herself because of their timetable in retrieving Yujiro from Kumo. As the snake slithered at high speed towards Fire Country, Vergil waited until he was surrounded by Kumo shinobi all ready to fighting him, and was not disappointed when a jonin came at him first with a kunai in hand. The man was sliced to pieces before the half-devil found had to dodge and dual sword-wielding Anbu, and quickly cut through a chunin that tried to take advantage of the action. Lightning style, lightning bolt jutsu, said Kumo jonin with several scars on his face from the previous shinobi war, and thought his jutsu would hit dead on, because of the steel weapon in Vergil's hand. Vergil, however, put Yamato in his left hand, raised his right hand out turned demonic, and caught the lightning jutsu before redirecting it back, killing its creator in an instant. Nice try, but now it's my turn now. Demonic earth style. Trembling earth jutsu, said Vergil, as he slammed his demonic hand down, and shook the ground around him in an unnaturally violent way, sending the Kumo shinobi flying everywhere. Get him, said a Kumo Anbu, who moved in for close-range combat, and tried to beat Vergil using advanced taijutsu fighting designed specifically for Anbu and Kumo. Vergil threw Yamato into the air before moving his body to either counter or block the taijutsu moves thrown at him, before redirecting the power he absorbed from the moves into a single attack. An attack that blew up 2 shinobi he hit at the same time when they thought they could double-team him together. When the sword he had thrown into the air came down, Vergil caught it, and used it in his taijutsu to cut off the limbs of the Kumo shinobi that attacked him before kicking them away, leaving them with bloody stumps. It wasn't long, though, before the other Kumo shinobi jumped in to fight Vergil, but were defeated, and turned into bloody piles of nothing. They were either defeated by his sword, his taijutsu, or his own arsenal of jutsus that killed if not crippled his opponents. That seems to be all of them. Now to get back to the others, thought Vergil, as he saw the remains of the group of Kumo shinobi on the ground, and sheathed his sword, before taking off to find the other 2. Within moments of Vergil leaving, however, a lone female figure wearing a hunter-nin mask, and a large sword on her back. Inspecting the area and sensing the chakra signatures in the area, the figure clenched her fist, when she sensed the half-devil's chakra, and then looked at the direction the trail was leading. He was here. I'm close. Soon I will have my revenge, thought the individual, as she went to follow her prey, and when he was within her grasp she would strike. With Anko and Yujiro. The two women had settled down in a forest area after the giant snake was dispersed, as they waited for Vergil to return, and Anko could see Yujiro was a bit nervous. Yujiro had gone on long-distance missions before for the Raikage, but she was always been with a well-armed envoy team to ensure she didn't go rouge, and she knew they had orders to neutralize her before taking her back to Kumo to be re-educated. The mere thought of what that meant sent a shiver of Yujiro's spine, and the Nibi telling her she made a smart move in leaving to be with her new mate. That of course made the poor woman blush a good shade of red, and was mentally screaming at her cat for making such a statement that had no truth to it whatsoever. Why are you so flustered? Thinking about a certain silver-haired hunk who has a killer sword and knows how to use it, said Anko, as she saw Yujiro's blush steepen, and look away, while mumbling to what sounded like herself and keeping such thoughts out of her head. Though Anko suspected the girl was talking to Nibi more than herself. I'm so happy you finally found a mate, my little kitten. I can see it now. Both of you are together, alone, drinking milk and eating tuna, while watching the sunset before that big moment where you present yourself to him, so he can mount you too. Said Nibi while Yujiro had put her fingers in her ears and cutting out the image Nibi was putting in her head. That's not my fantasy, Nibi-chan, it's yours, thought Yujiro, who saw Nibi snicker at her, and had a look that told of mischievousness. Oh? So you are having fantasies about him? My little kitten is becoming a true feline thanks that hunky bit of half-devil meat, said Nibi, as she flinched at the yelling Yujiro was giving her, and wondered how the girl could have such a high-pitched set of lungs. Then again that may work in her favor, if Nibi could get the half-devil and her vessel together. Shut up, Nibi. And what do you mean half-devil? Don't you mean half-demon? Thought Yujiro, as she did sense the young boy, which she kept trying to repeat in her head, did have an aura about him that was demonic, and thought it had to do with his own demon sealed away. Technically a devil is a demon, but devils are really high up on the demonic food chain, and judging from what I felt earlier from this young man, he is the long-lying descendant of Sparda, said Nibi, as she had not been born around that time. But her great-great-grandmother, when she was just a kitten herself however, did meet one of the two sons of Sparda on several separate occasions, and had passed down the feeling of that demonic chakra signature down from feline to kitten, so none of them would forget it. Sparda, said Yujiro, as she said that out loud, and it got Anko's attention. Yep. From what I was taught when I was a kitten, Sparda was the toughest devil on the block, and every female demon wanted nothing more than to mate with him back in the day. This boy seems to be his long-line descendant from one of his twin sons he sired ages ago, said Nibi, as she saw Yujiro absorbing all this information, and knew that her vessel was going to enjoy being with this kid as time progressed. Is he like us though, said Yujiro more to herself, even though she was speaking outside of her own mind. He was like you at one point. I don't know what happened of course, but if I were to make a guess, I would say he somehow used the demon that was sealed inside of him to jumpstart his power, and would have to have a powerful demon to make it happen, said Nibi, as she thought more about it. And wondered what demon Vergil held before his ascension. Let's just ask him at a later time. Alright, said Yujiro, as she didn't feel comfortable in where this conversation was heading, and it was only now did she realize she was talking outside of her mind. Problems inside your head. I get that on occasion, but when I go to my happy place, they tend to go away, and I hurt people since it's part of my job description, said Anko, as she made Yujiro's sweat drop, and the Nibi inside of her doing the same. Considering your line of work, that's no surprise, Anko-chan, said Vergil, as he appeared in front of them, and saw Yujiro's eyes light up with joy at his return. Vergil-kun, said Anko, as she tackled him, and buried his face into her chest, while moving as deep as she could into her chest. That bitch, thought Yujiro angrily and hissed at the woman for doing that to her. Vergil-kun. Oh? So he's your Vergil-kun now. But you do have a point, kitten, this snake bitch has to die, said Nibi, as she felt her kitten getting angry, and quite frankly so was she in this matter. Anko-chan, this can wait until after we complete the mission, and everything concerning Yujiro becomes official with the Hokage, said Vergil, as he snaked his hand under her skirt, and gave it a healthy squeeze, that made Anko moan out in pleasure. Fine. But when this is over you and me are going to have a long talk about this, said Anko, as she freed him from her bosom, and smirked at him, while Vergil just smirked back. I'm sure you will make it quite stimulating, Anko-chan, said Vergil, as he found the fox inside of him telling him to take Anko right now, and then Yujiro afterwards so the girl wouldn't be left out. All Vergil had to do was tell him to shut up, and surprisingly the Kyuubi listened. The trio made it back to Konoha without any further incidents, as they entered the new Hokage's office, and gave Tsunade a full report, while explaining he recruited Anko for this mission along with giving her a fair share of the mission pay. Tsunade wasn't thrilled by this, but considering Vergil got the job done, and weakening Kumo considerably, she wasn't going to argue. Okay, Yujiro is it? I'm putting you on a temporary probation status with us here in the Leaf. Also, to prevent people from hating you here like they did in Kumo, we're going to keep the information about the Nibi sealed inside of you a secret, and have you stay with Vergil until further notice at the Namikaze estates. We will run a test assessment of your skills within the week privately at the estates, to see where you rank as a shinobi. Well, the Raikage no doubt gave you Jonin status because of your demon. I am not going to have you use his powers during this test to see how strong you are without it, and have you train with Vergil after I see just how strong you really are, said Tsunade. As she saw Yujiro blush for a second before it vanished, and Anko seething silently, while Vergil just looked calm. Yes, Hokage-sama, said Yujiro, as she was silently glad to be living with the same person who had saved her from Kumo, and brought before a Hokage that didn't see her like a mindless weapon to use on dangerous missions before throwing her away. Nibi kept telling her that this was her chance to get laid, but that wasn't worth paying attention to, and had to fight back against the blush that came after Tsunade finished speaking. Also, I would like to know if you know anything about the incident with the ambassador from Kumo, and if the Raikage had really sent him to capture Hyuga for their bloodline limit, said Tsunade, as that had always pained her old sensei into sacrificing a member of the Hyuga family that eventually led to the death of Hyuga Hazashi, along with the blood feud within the clan. If the Raikage was involved, he didn't share or brag about it in front of me, but I would bet Nibi's whiskers that he sent a man to do just that. The Raikage has always wanted to have more of everything to outnumber his enemies, and instill a sense of dread upon all those that would oppose him. When it came to demon vessels, he felt having two would give him an advantage over another village with their one, and having the Byakugan in Kumo for himself is something I would expect him to try without a doubt, said Yujiro, as she saw Tsunade nod, and accept her statement on the matter for now. Very well then. Dismissed, said Tsunade, as she sat back in her chair, and let out a sigh from the knowledge of what Vergil had done sink into her own mind before smiling at the notion of the Raikage being extremely upset. It could spark another shinobi war, but then again when the man realizes just who it was that freed Yujiro from his grasp, the man will think twice, and possibly back off. Even then, the man had another more powerful demon vessel at his disposal, and to reveal he lost one already would make him look weak in front of everyone. No, for the moment, the Raikage wouldn't do anything, and keep quiet to prevent himself from looking like a fool. Namikaze states. 15 minutes later. Are you sure you don't want to crash for the night, Anko-chan? I have plenty of room for you in here, said Vergil, as he looked at the purple-haired woman who had flirted so heavily with him, and he backed at her with that same amount heavy flirting. Nah, I just trash the place like I do my home. Maybe another time, said Anko, even though her instincts were telling her to go in there with him and let him impale her with his sword until her throat was too sore to scream anymore. Another time it is then, said Vergil, as he took her hand and kissed it, making Anko shiver at the touch that he had instilled on her person. With Anko now going home, Vergil walked into his home followed by Yujiro, and was instantly hugged by his two slaves, before they kissed him passionately to show just how much they missed him. Welcome home, Vergil-sama. Your slaves are ready to follow your every command, said Kin, as she felt his hand on her rear, and the other on Teiwaya's, much to the joy of the blushing redhead. Very well. My first command is to meet me upstairs in my room, and my second is for you both to wear in your panties, said Vergil into their ears, and gave each of their butts a good groping before they headed upstairs to their master's bedroom. You sleep with them, said Yujiro, as she saw Vergil look at her, and she knew he was going to explain. They are former shinobi from Sound, so they fall under the guidelines of being adults by a shinobi village, but after the failed invasion, I took them as slaves, after they told me everything concerning the late Orochimaru. I admit, I didn't plan on being with them so soon, but being around so many hot women like yourself, and them does take its toll on my self-control. I didn't rape them, if that's what you think, said Vergil, as the two slaves came to him willingly, and helped him unlock a side of him that was partially buried. Well, I guess that makes sense, said Yujiro, as she saw Vergil nod a little, and showed her to the guest room that would be hers until further notice. Remember, you are not a prisoner here, Yujiro-chan, and will be treated with respect in my house. The Hokage has already put the necessary papers in motion to have you as my guest under the protection of my clan to prevent any members of the councils from doing anything stupid. As for trusting her, I wouldn't worry since she is my godmother, and owes me for lacking in her responsibilities in being one for most of my life, said Vergil, as he saw Yujiro's eyes widen at that news, and felt her fears of being used like some kind of mindless weapon be put down at that news. Without another word, Vergil shut the door behind him, and left Yujiro to enjoy her stay at his estates with her collapsing on her new bed, before squirming around in it like a cat does in a comfortable spot it likes. Instantly, Nibi began talking to her vessel, telling her how lucky she had become, and was finally living in a place where the room could barely hold one person with a bed that didn't look like a prison cell. Now if only you had stripped naked for that sexy half-devil and asked him take your virginity, said Nibi, making Yujiro blush several shades of red, before going into a squeal along with unleashing a big hissy fit that made Nibi laugh and ignore the threats the woman gave. With Vergil. When the young half-devil walked into his room, he was greeted to the side of Kin and Teiwaya both in just their panties, while sitting on his bed eagerly awaiting him. Putting his sheathed sword against the door wall, Vergil removed his trench coat, his boots, and his shirt, before he got to the edge of the bed. You've had a long tiring mission, master, said Kin, as she got off the bed before kissing him with a passion, and her hands undoing his pants. Let us help you relax like all slaves should do for their master, said Teiwaya, as she was doing the same, and soon they had their master naked with a massive erection that was in need of being satisfied. Without another word, the half-devil let his slaves pleasure his erection with their hands and their mouths while Vergil enjoyed the sensations they were giving him. He groaned out their names as he put a hand on each of their heads and massaged their scalps while they used their mouths to give his wiener pleasure. Yes. Finally, my vessel is getting some much-needed release, and well I think you should have tapped the Nibi's vessel. This will do for now, said Kyubi, as he had seen how his vessel had been slowly unwinding from his serious self, and was finding that the process of mounting a willing mate, or slaves in this case, was doing wonders for his cold personality. Come for us, master. Let your sea fill our mouths, splash on her faces, and bodies of your slutty slaves meant only to pleasure you, said Kin, as she licked the tip of his wiener, and Teiwaya slobbered all over the length of his shaft, while both their hands caressed his balls together. Kin-chan. Teiwaya-chan, said Vergil, as he couldn't hold out on their combined oral assault on his erection, and came all over the two girls, with both of them taking his wiener in their mouths, taking turns swallowing his seed. When he finished released his load, Vergil looked down at his coon-covered girls, and the sight of them like that made his lust for them reach all new heights. Making a shadow clone, Vergil along with his clone, placed the two slave girls front first on the bed, before pulling down their panties, and brushed their lengths against their nether region's folds, making each girl shiver with delight. Neither knew whether they got the original or the clone, but what they did know was they were going to be fluffed beyond all expectations. And they were right. With Yujito struggled to sleep, as she loved the comfy new room, the bed, the sheets on the bed, and the sense of security the place provided. Normally, this wouldn't be a problem, but there was just one problem right now, and it had something to do with her host that had taken her in. She could hear him getting it on with his two slave girls, and it was making her feel that particular itch that she had trained herself to ignore back in Kumo. But again, there was another set of problems with that whole method in terms of suppressing that itch. Yujito wasn't in Kumo, her own hearing, which was more sensitive thanks to Nibi, was picking up everything in the threesome's bedroom, and the Nibi sealed inside of her was giving her erotic images while telling her to get some of that action. You can hear them in there, can't you, kitten? How they scream out in pleasure. How he dominates and makes them scream out for more. That could be you, said Nibi, as she giggled perversely, and was trying to make her vessel give into the itch instead of resisting it. Shut up. I am not going in there, and you can't make me, thought Yujito, as she tried to block out the screams of the girls calling on their master to give it to them, and stick his big juicy wiener into their wet nether region's lips, while they climaxed in sweet pleasure. I can't make you. Oh dear kitten, you forget that. Well, I can't move your body. I can influence you to get so horny that you will march in there after he's done, strip, and ride him until you pass out in sexual bliss, said Nibi, as she felt her vessel blush at that, and the sound of Teiwaya now screaming out how she liked it in her ass, along with her being his naughty foul-mouthed slave bitch. You wouldn't, thought Yujito, as she saw Nibi grin at her, and knew she would. Try me, kitten. Even though you are a virgin, we both know that you have had desires in the past, that thanks to me have been repressed, knowing that it would be wrong due to the rumors that would spread about you back in Kumo. The last thing the Raikage needed was an excuse to have you turned into a breeding factory to give him a litter of demonic-empowered children, said Nibi, as that had been the case, where the Raikage had planned to use Yujito for just that within a few years' time. And now this situation kind of shot that down straight to hell. Yujito tried to resist the desires inside of her because of what was happening not far from her own room, but the sounds of pleasure, and the final screams of pleasure from both girls that echoed into silence were too much. The ache inside of her could not be ignored, denied, and suppressed like she had done so many times before today. She wanted Namikaze Vergil now. With Vergil panted at the feel of his orgasm, slowly left him from banging a face down Teiwaya in the ass, while looking over at Kin on her back, covered in cum in the same position, with some of the fluid his clone gave her slowly leaking out her rectum too. The two had both begged for it after being taken from behind, and then on their backs after being injected with his sperm inside their snatches along with having it sprayed on their bodies. Ever since he took them, the two had wanted to mate with him more, which helped elevate his own darker emotions, and make his stay in the leaf tolerable. Granted, Hinata, Tenten, Tamari, now an ambassador from Suna, and recently Anko had helped in that regard by not being afraid of his usually cold exterior, along with his past actions regarding the old orphanage. Lino had been a little scared, but Vergil had assured her that he wasn't so bad like the adults made him out to be, and he would like to be her friend, if she still wanted to have the opportunity. As Vergil looked down at his slave girls, he leaned over them, before giving them each a kiss on the cheek that made them moan out in pleasure, and it made him smile at the notion he was able to make them happy. Vergil's thoughts were soon interrupted, though when Yujito came into the room wearing only a dark blue robe, before walking up to him, and giving him a heated kiss on the lips. Raising an eyebrow at her, Vergil saw the lust in her eyes, and her nude form, when she disturbed in front of him, before she ran a hand over his once again rising erection. I need you. I have all this pent-up frustration and you seem to be the only one I can trust to help me let it out. Please," said Yujito, as the smell of sex in the room had only made her even hornier, and the look on the girls when she walked in let her see just how happy the girls were being his. Now she wanted to be his right now. To be his and more. "I know of that frustration, and I'll gladly help in relieving you of it," said Vergil, as he saw how angry she was with Kumo on the way back to Konoha, and how she was now free to express her bloodlust in the matter she wished to express it. Without another word, Yujito kissed him passionately while both of their demons let out their own respectful roars of success in getting their vessels laid, and watched the two go at it. Hyuga states, Hiashi sat in his clan office tired from looking over legal clan documents, as he had been looking through them, and found exactly what he was looking for. The marriage contract that had been signed by both parents of Vergil to marry his oldest daughter, should his old friend's child be a boy and his own being a girl. "Soon, my daughter, I will bring you the happiness that I could not, and was too much of a coward for even trying to give it to you," said Hiashi, as he would give his daughter the love she wanted, and would speak to Namikaze Vergil in the morning to see if he would agree to it. Outside of Konoha's walls. Soon I will avenge the one that was precious to me, and slay the one that I thought could be a precious person," said the masked female hunter, as she rested against a tree clutching her chest, while trying to breathe properly since the wound there had been, and struggled to focus on her goal of killing Namikaze Vergil. Drifting slowly off to sleep, the woman closed her tired eyes, and let the bloodlust-filled thoughts of destroying the shinobi that took Momochi Zabuza away from her. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification, and also check out the other videos that I have created, and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.